The 2024 to 2025 season marks the highly anticipated second season of the Professional Women's Hockey League, building on the success and momentum of its inaugural year. After a groundbreaking debut, the league is poised to elevate women's hockey to new heights, with top-tier talent, fierce competition, and growing fan support. As teams continue to strengthen their rosters and sharpen their skills, the 2024 to 2025 season promises to be even more exciting, with increased visibility, expanded media coverage, and enhanced experience for fans. This season, the PWHL looks to solidify its place as the premier destination for women's hockey, as players push for championships and inspire the next generation of athletes.
Sixth place, the Ottawa Charge, 39 points.
The Ottawa Charge are entering the 2024 to 2025 Professional Women's Hockey League season with a lot to prove. After finishing as the second worst team in the inaugural season with 8 wins, 1 win in overtime, 6 losses in overtime, and 9 losses in regulation, with 32 points, and they missed the playoffs. Last season, they boasted the second best offense with 62 goals, but their defensive woes were evident, allowing the second most goals in the league at 63. Heading into the new campaign, their odds to win the PWHL championship are the lowest, and many expect them to miss the playoffs again, finishing with just 39 points on the new campaign and missing the playoffs once more. However, if their defense improves, they could surprise us in the new season.
Fifth place, the New York Sirens, 44 points.
The New York Sirens were the worst team in the inaugural season of the league, and are now set to improve in the 2024 to 2025 campaign. During the inaugural season of the league, their final record was 5 wins, 4 wins in overtime, 3 losses in overtime, and had 12 losses in regulation, worth 26 points, and they missed the playoffs. Last season, they struggled with the second worst offense in goals scored with 53, and they had the league's worst defense, allowing 67 goals. With key adjustments in the offseason, the Sirens should improve significantly, finishing with 44 points this season. Though they remain unlikely to make the playoffs and their championship odds are still low, a surprise run could be in the cards if their offense and defense find better balance this season.
Fourth place, the Boston Fleet, 48 points.
The Boston Fleet were a surprise contender in the inaugural PWHL season, finishing third with a record of 8 wins, 4 wins in overtime, 3 losses in overtime, and had 9 losses in regulation, worth 35 points, and they made the playoffs. In the playoffs last season, they reached the finals, where they lost in 5 games to Minnesota. Despite having the worst offense with 50 goals scored, and their defense was one of the league's best, tied for third in goals allowed at 57. Heading into 2024 to 2025, the Fleet are poised for another playoff berth, finishing in 4th with 48 points this season. With strong championship odds, Boston could make a real push this year, aiming to return to the finals and contend for the title.
Third place, the Montreal Victoire, 49 points.
The Montreal Victoire were one of the top teams in the inaugural season of the league, and they finished as the second best team, and they made the playoffs. In the playoffs last season, they were unfortunately swept by Boston in the semifinals. Their final record during the regular season was 10 wins, with 3 wins in overtime, 5 losses in overtime, and had 6 losses in regulation worth 41 points. They had the third best offense in the league with 60 goals scored, and had a solid defense that also ranked third in goals allowed with 57. Heading into the 2024 to 2025 season, Montreal is poised to improve, finishing third overall with 49 points. With great odds to win the championship, they are well positioned for a deep playoff run and will be hungry to rebound from last year's early exit. Expect a strong, competitive season from them.
Second place, the Minnesota Frost, 59 points.
The Minnesota Frost were the 4th best team in the inaugural season, and they also made the playoffs. In the playoffs, they made a historic run, capturing the inaugural championship by defeating Boston in 5 games. During the regular season, they had a record of 8 wins, with 4 wins in overtime, 3 losses in overtime, and had 9 losses in regulation worth 35 points. Last season, they had the 4th-ranked offense in goals scored at 54, and had the second best defense in the league in goals allowed at 54. And Minnesota showed incredible balance. In the new season, they're poised for another strong campaign, finishing as the second best overall team with 59 points. With great championship odds, expect the Frost to chase back-to-back titles this season, and they have the tools to make it happen once again.
In first place, the Toronto Sceptres, 64 points.
The Toronto Sceptres were the top team in the inaugural season of the league, and they made the playoffs. Their final record was 13 wins, with 4 wins in overtime, 0 losses in overtime, and had 7 losses in regulation worth 47 points. Despite their regular season dominance, their playoff run ended early with a disappointing 5-game series loss to Minnesota in the semifinals. Toronto led the league with the best offense in goals scored at 69, and their defense was the top-ranked unit in goals allowed at 50. In the 2024 to 2025 season, Toronto is poised for another stellar season, finishing with 64 points and has the best odds to win the championship. The Sceptres will be hungry to become the first Canadian team to claim the title and bounce back from last year's playoff exit. Now let's go to the playoffs. The Boston Fleet versus the Toronto Sceptres. So my pick to win this playoff matchup between these two teams is the Toronto Sceptres will win this series in 4 games. The Montreal Victoire versus the Minnesota Frost. So my prediction for this playoff series is that the Minnesota Frost will advance back to the finals after winning this series in 5 games. Now on to the PWHL Finals. The Minnesota Frost versus the Toronto Sceptres. This final series will be a great one, and my prediction is that the Toronto Sceptres will win their first championship in team history this season in 5 games.
So those are my predictions for the second season of the PWHL. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments section. So if you're new, please consider subscribing and also hit that notification bell. And if you love sports, this is definitely the place for you. And also, share this video with more sports fans. And for more videos, please click up here. And thank you so much for watching. This is Sports Gear, and I'll see you guys all next time. Just keep loving sports. And this is Caitlin, by the way.